Thanks, Deepak. Thanks to you, Hari, and the CEO Lounge for the opportunity to get so many industry leaders on one panel and having webinars on some interesting topics on a survey we did. And a special thanks to you. Yeah, you're a true friend. When I forwarded you the introduction about everybody, there was the educational qualification also. I was actually worried. If you start reading that out, there is IIT, there is I am Bangalore, I am Lucknow, Symbiosis, I am. So, this. If my parents would be listening to this, they would have. I know what's coming to me. If beta thoda pad likh leta, so you would have also been a panelist right now, because I'll be the one left asking the questions, and the better educated ones will have all the answers. So thanks for taking care of that piece. Yeah, it makes my life simpler. Yeah. So thanks, Deepak. We'll get on with the show now. In terms of, you've kind of laid the context that yes, we've been all going through something over the last 4 months now, and somewhere in the middle of this, we kind of thought of putting together something as an engagement tool with the client base that we have. We said, okay, we'll try and put some questions. Those are questions on our mind for sure, and I think they're on everybody's mind. So we kind of put together a survey. The response was fabulous. Not just in terms of the number of respondents that responded to the survey, but even in the profile of the people, the mix of the industry, as well as the size of the company. So we kind of had a good flavor of small companies, mid-sized companies, large companies. Similarly, in terms of the industry mix. So there's a fair mix of industries that also responded. So it was good to get a overall view of what's happening around. The reviews that we got were very good in terms of the content. I mean, the questions, the way they were structured and all that. And even better reviews on the way the charts and the presentation were there, the graphics that were kind of used in terms of putting this together. So a big thank you to the team at my end as well, a group of small youngsters who drove this initiatives behind the scenes. And here I am actually leading this to the next level in terms of the webinars. So we have, for the audience, we have a group of webinars planned in terms of the discussions that we're going to have from some very pertinent questions that are in people's mind. The theme is also fine. It's called Reboot. Amongst all of us at this level, amongst me and the panelists, I think as part of our corporate journeys, we've gone through a lot of situations, various scenarios, stress tests done, some critical business challenges. The other thing that has also happened is what comes along with these size of these roles is you go through a lot of trainings as well. Pankaj would vouch for it. INSEAD for one was great leadership in a VUCA world. But at least I can say that for myself, the situation that we are in, I never got close to a case study as well for this one. There was no case study prepared. When we prepare business plans and all, we do stress tests as well. I don't think this was ever a stress test scenario as well. Forget a real life scenario. So we are here right now grappling with the situation. But the good thing is, I don't know whether the good or the bad thing, cases around 50,000 nowadays. But the fear was much higher when we were 5,000 cases. When you go out on the street, the fear is actually much lesser at 50,000 cases. So that's life for us. Let's get on to the core agenda for today. As Deepak said, it's a very elite panel, handpicked for the diversity and the perspective that they'll bring, people from different industries. The headline for the topic today is response, recovery, and beyond. And we've, not just for us, everybody on the audience side also, we've been overwhelmed with the pandemic. Newspaper is all full of gloom. You have to really find some good news come out in the newspaper. But being the optimistic I am, I clearly see opportunities there. There are challenges for sure, but I clearly see a ray of hope at the end of it. And the light is becoming a bit more brighter as you go deeper into this tunnel. So, and I'm sure everybody is eager to get back to their workplaces, do what they do best, reboot and kind of rebuild. So I'm going to just start there is no particular order, but I thought, let me start with Shashank. And, I'll tell you the reason also why I chose to start with Shashank. So for people who've looked at the invite, you'll see all of us trying to smile. But there is one gentleman out there who has a very, very infectious smile on the, on the print there. It's like somebody who seems genuinely happy. Given an opportunity, he'll love to laugh his heart out at the opportunity given. And I have a dear friend who does that, and I know how it feels laughing your heart out. So I think at this point of time, we surely need a lot of happiness around us. So who better than Shashank to start with the discussion today? Shashank, I just want to bring you into the discussion. The automotive sector has been in the news throughout the year, pre-COVID, post-COVID and all. And the upswings or the downswings in the passenger car sales is something that people closely relate to the health of the economy as well. When we reached out to people, a large part on the automotive sector respondents were there, almost 10% of the people. So while on an overall basis, we see 70% of people getting impacted negatively or severely by the pandemic. If I were to look at the automotive sector responses, that number is 85%. I mean, it's 60% in FMCGs, 70% in financial services, and 85% of the respondents on the automobile side. So you're at the forefront of all of this, leading Maruti to this where it is today. And Maruti's always made products which are mass market, and they click well in the India and the Bharat if we were to differentiate. Yeah. And we're now talking about a farm-led recovery or a farm-led revival to the economy. I just want you to come in and share your perspectives with the larger audience. Where do you see us going from where we are right now?
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. I would like to, first of all, start with the pre-COVID time for the auto industry. We were in the process of actually rebuilding when we are now in the process of rebooting. The rebuilding was happening because, the auto industry last year had shown a dip after about 6 or 7 years of continuous growth. You may be knowing that the auto industry fortunes are very closely related to the GDP growth. And in fact, if you do a correlation exercise, the correlation coefficient comes to 0.9864, which is a pretty good fit, GDP per capita with the auto sales. And in fact, the year 18-19 saw dip, the GDP coming down. And the GDP 18-19 was like 6.1. Then quarter on quarter, it became 5.6, 5.1, 4.2. Q4 of financial year 19-20 was actually 3.1. So I think in response to that, we had seen a decline coupled with the fact that in the auto industry, the cost of acquisition had gone up because of emission norms, introduction of new safety norms, registration taxes going up, insurance going up. And there was also last year a little bit of uncertainty regarding the elections and the monsoons, which started off poorly. So we were actually coming down, and in the Q3 of last financial year and Q4, we saw a recovery. And thanks to a lot of efforts done by the industry, we were seeing some green shoots. And actually Q3 and Jan and Feb were slight positive for Maruti Suzuki as well as for the industry. However, then as we were coming out of that tunnel of a little bit of darkness, we saw the pandemic train coming from the opposite side, and it hit us really hard in the last week of March. And after the lockdown, there was absolutely no sale in the month of April. There was complete lockdown. The sale was zero across all manufacturers because the whole country was in the lockdown. Since May, however, we have seen some revival. The government allowed the business activity again. Showrooms started opening. For Maruti Suzuki, for example, now we have almost about 90% of our showrooms which are open. We have 3,100, out of which about 2,800 are open. So we saw pleasantly a sort of a quick bounce back especially as you mentioned in the Bharat and the rural part, in the smaller cities, the bounce back has been much faster. So if you look at parameters of consumer demands, which are retails or bookings or enquiries, they are roughly around 80-85% of the pre-COVID times. So that is actually a good bounce back, and the bounce back is a little bit better in the rural areas. And I think the reason is that we have had a very good Rabi crop. It's been a record. It's about 150 million tons that we have had Rabi crop. Even the Kharif sowing has been very good. Monsoon is up. I think about till a couple of days back it was about 7%, and the sowing of Kharif has been really good. It's about 20% higher than last year. So with about 800 million hectares of land already under sowing, the normal, remember, is about 1,000 million hectares. I think the sentiment is therefore much positive on the rural front. The reason also is that the COVID hasn't struck rural areas so much. It is the urban areas which have had seen clusters and deeper lockdowns than in the smaller areas. What we find is, of course, going forward, and your question, I think, pertains also what you look forward. What do you see the future? I think the bounce back has been good. There has been disruptions in the supply chain side, and so all manufacturers, all OEMs in the auto industry are actually scrambling to increase their production levels. We see future, obviously, the steady state demand will depend on the fundamentals of economy, will also depend on the sentiment. Car purchasing, by the way, is heavily dependent on sentiments, positive sentiments. We have what we could have the vaccine upside, or we could have the virus downside. And that is where the question mark is. So we believe that we're keeping our fingers crossed. The bounce back has been a little better. But we think going forward, it could be the shape of I think one of the panelists, I think Deepak mentioned what will be the shape of the rebound. So will it be a V or a W? There is also a J, of course. Then there is the Nike swoosh, where you have a small dip and then you have a steady growth. You could also have a U. You could have a L also, as some doomsdayers are predicting. So it falls down dramatically, stays at a low level. That's a L. You also have, of course, a bathtub recovery, where it falls down, stays a little bit low for some time, and then climbs up back again. So what will be the shape, a V or a W or a L or a J or a bathtub or a Nike, is really something which we need to debate. And I was thinking that while we have used almost all the alphabets, maybe in line with the Atmanirbhar thing, you can talk about the Varnamala of Hindi, and maybe you can even look at whether, if I was to ask, somebody is to ask me about the Hindi Varnamala, I would say it will be a La, which is it comes down and then bounces back again. And future depends on which, whether you see a COVID upside or a COVID downside.
Thanks, Shashank. I think, yeah. In fact, on that point, I was actually discussing with my son. He was saying, kids come with a different perspective. I was saying the shape of the recovery curve is N. So it's like, and then he came up with the stupid thing, Papa, when N gets tired, he'll become a Z also and he'll lie down. So that is on the shape of the recovery curve. Everybody has a view. And, now you bring your trademark smile back on the screen. How do you manage that?
Which one? The smile?
Yes, or the laughter.
No, I think everybody smiles. Everybody has his moments of happiness, and also moments of where you have to be deeper in thought, surely. So I take the pressures. So that's one way of.
I'm sure people in Maruti would be feeling happier with you around.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for that perspective.